once we're through the first part of the conversation where I identify, okay, this person does need what we do, I don't consider the cost of action anymore. It never even crosses my mind. It never crosses my mind how much this person's going to need to spend. It doesn't cross my mind whether this person's going to have to go into debt. It doesn't cross my mind whether or not this person is going to need to, hang their hopes on it, even though the last mentor they worked with led them to a plateau. And that doesn't cross my mind at all. Once I have certainty that we can help somebody, I am like a dog on a bone to make sure that they get the help that they need. At Active Life, we believe that the healthcare clinic of the future is the gym.
Everybody starts with the best case scenario in mind.
Never sell anything to anybody who is not in the market for what you have.
The only reason we work out is to create the opportunity to recover.
And the healthcare provider of the future is the coach.
And this is why you guys need to get paid well, because what you're doing is really, really hard work.
What's up, Active Lifers? Welcome back to Turning Pro in the Active Life podcast. I'm Larry Gaier, and I'm joined today by Dr. Sean Pastuch.
Let's do this.
I'm extremely excited for you to help us all understand a little bit more about sales than we currently already do. I think there are a lot of people who are buying countless products to teach them how to write good sales scripts and what the right thing to say is at the right time and the right button to push after this lever to make the person want to buy the thing. And I think there are a lot of people who probably aspire to effectively sell the way you do. And I was one of them. Don't anymore.
Because you're there. You're there.
And I think what's really important for people to understand is actually what's going on in your background before you learn anything about scripts. Because I'm going to be totally transparent. You and I have learned about that stuff together. We've gone through materials to learn how to build script, blah, blah, blah. And before we had any of that, you were still very, very effective for where you were, for the little or no training that you had. And I think it's really important for people to understand what's happening in the background organically that has allowed you to be as successful as you are before and without the tactics.
So there's a few things I want to speak to that you just mentioned. And the first one is that the little or no training part. I want to discuss that one first. I had copious training. It just wasn't your read this book, apply this information from the book, and audit and redo it. It wasn't enroll in this Grant Cardone course. It wasn't this enroll in Jordan Belfort's course. It was trial by fire. It was you sell or you eat McDonald's, and you hate McDonald's. So you need to sell. And I never kept track of statistics when I first got into the fitness business or even clinical practice so that I could understand how many people did I talk to as compared to how many did I sell. I just forgot about all the ones who said no and sold to the next one. My percentage was probably in the single digits from opening a conversation to actually getting somebody to buy from me. And it was through that experience, those reps, and then asking people questions like, why did you say yes? And learning why they said yes, that it became this thing where I was no longer nervous about the conversation before it would start. I was excited about the conversation. And to give people some insight into that, when I first started selling, the first thing I ever needed to sell was personal training sessions. I mean, I sold door to door, shoveling people's driveways and things like that, but I had no idea what I was doing. It was just, that was slow reps. But when I got into selling personal training, it was all day, every day, because the way it worked at Equinox was they would pay me $8 an hour, if I remember correctly, for floor hours, which means I'm wearing a blue shirt, walking around the floor, giving people towels and spotting them and that kind of stuff. And it was $18 an hour if I was training a personal training session. It was $27 an hour if I was doing 21 personal training sessions per week or more. That's how they paid at the time as a tier 1 trainer. That's the entry level, just got here, dude. So I very quickly did the math and I was like, well, I can make almost 4 times as much per hour working less hours if I can just get my schedule filled. Might as well take a bunch of shots. And That's where it all really kind of started for me. You and I did learn all of the scripting and the tactics together. And I didn't have any of it before. And I have a lot of that now. I don't use any of it cognitively right now. What I mean by that is it's anytime I go to that, it's because it automatically is just happening. There's no thought involved. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, well, with any skill acquisition, right?
I guess so. But I mean, I bet that if we watched and rewound my conversations with people, I miss steps. And there's steps that I shouldn't miss. There's
But
steps
they still bought.
they still buy.
Right.
And I get asked all the time from people in my personal DM, in my email, hey, I'm a coach, I'm a gym owner, and I feel like the number one thing I'm missing is the ability to sell, because people come in and I tell them what it costs and then they leave, or they send me an email, I tell them what it costs and they don't write me back. How do I learn to sell like you? And it's flattering and it's frustrating, because I know that there are so many mentors out there right now who are working with gym owners the way that we are at Active Life. Well, working with gym owners, take away the way that we are at Active Life, who are working with coaches. And I just think that to leave out sales is an egregious mistake. And I feel bad for the fitness professionals who don't have it.
So what is it around what actually, so first of all, I would agree with you 100%. And I think that we both learned that lesson in our careers as personal trainers. What is it about what is actually happening internally for you that allows you to effectively move people into a sale in such a way that they are excited, scared, and inspired without focusing on tactics and pushing the right buttons at the right time?
I think what you're asking, I want to make sure I understand correctly, is how am I helping people go from not interested or afraid to buy to paying, saying thank you, and referring a friend without using tactics or sleazy scripts and things like that?
Exactly.
The biggest thing for me, and I've tried to impart this on all of the people who we work with, and I know you imparted on the people we work with in the immersion course, is the thing that goes through my mind in any sales conversation is, what is the cost of inaction for this person? Meaning, if they decide not to work with us at Active Life, what does their life end up looking like? And there are plenty of times when I come to the conclusion that their life would be fine. Their life would be great. Their life is great. They are living the life that they want. And if getting the next level for them is not a priority, I stop the sales conversation right there, because it's not something that they want or need.
So,
but hold on. But
okay.
For the rest of the people, I get a lot of gym owners in my DM, and I get a lot of coaches in my DM. Many of the gym owners think they're crushing it. They tell me that they're doing great. And I'm excited to hear that. As we get into the conversation, they tell me how frustrated they are. And to me, it's difficult to be both doing great and be frustrated at the same time. It's not totally out of the realm of possible. I feel like that's where I live 24/7. But I believe, but that's why I hire coaching to help me amplify my speed. These gym owners who come to me and tell me how frustrated they are, but they're crushing it, when I ask them questions like, well, what is your gym making per month? $15,000 a month, $20,000 a month. Okay, that's not bad. What is your personal salary? Well, I don't have one. I pay myself at the end of the month with whatever's left. Okay, what's profit? Well, I mean, I guess it depends. Some months I pay myself like $1,500. Some months I pay myself $3,000. It really depends. Okay, what that tells me is that that person has not yet actually set up a business that they can measure, that they can be successful from, and that they can sell to. They don't understand what they're selling, what it should cost, what they need to pay somebody to do it, what the process behind that sale is going to look like, meaning when the person buys, what are you actually going to do for them? So it becomes difficult for them to actually conceptualize the person sitting across from them living a better life after buying. you follow me on that?
Amen. 100%.
And I think that that's the biggest thing that we teach people in both our foundations program and our immersion program, and most definitely in our pro path, is the value that you have as a fitness professional right now without learning any new skills as a coach, and then helping you maximize your ability to execute those so that you become a good level of frustrated, that your business is full, but there's all these people you want to be able to help who you don't have the skills for. And then within the same course that you've already enrolled in, we give you the rest of the skills. And when I'm talking to somebody who is in my DM for a reason, it means that they ran into some dead end, or they've plateaued. Most of them are working with another coach. That's great. It's great. There's still something missing, and that's why they're there. And that's where I know that if those people don't end up working with us, they're going to continue to feed themselves whatever positivity they need to feel okay with where they're at, while they're still struggling, while they're still spending 40, 50, 60 hours of work every week, less time with their kids, less time with their significant other, less time enjoying the fruits of their labor. And having been there myself, I don't like to let people off the hook until they've enrolled with us.
I think there are two costs to the client when they're going to buy from you that I don't think most people are taking into consideration. And you mentioned the cost of inaction. Mm-hmm. And I think it's valuable that you unpack that for us. But before you do that, I think it's really important that we mention the cost of action that I think most people are getting too hung up on. And there are 4 that I can think of. You might be able to offer another one if you can. The first one is probably most obvious to you guys, and it's, the financial cost. What are they going to have to pay me for this? I think a lot of people, and certainly a lot of the coaches and gym owners that I end up with in our calls or mentoring them on sales, they end up really, really hung up on the financial cost that people are going to pay. They're anticipating the hurt from people writing the check for them. The second one is the energy and the effort that they're going to have to put into actually working with you, right? It's going to cost them actual, real physical and mental energy to work with you. The third is time. How much time are they going to have to spend to get what they want from you? And the last one is opportunity. What are they going to have to sacrifice in order to show up for your thing? And it is imperative that you weigh all of those so you actually understand how emotionally seriously invested they are going to be in whatever you get.
There is one more cost.
What is it?
It's the cost of optimism. It's the idea that if you're not sure you can help this person, then when they come through and they're like, I'm really excited, I hope that this is going to work, you can let them down. And that's a cost that they're considering, and that I believe many people who are selling are considering.
I like that. So there are 5. And on the other side of that, we have to, despite all of those costs to the client and despite his empathy, the empathy that we're using to bear all of those costs in mind, we have to understand what is potentially an immeasurably greater cost. And I think that's what you were referring to when you said the cost of inaction. Is that true?
Yeah. So when I'm thinking about the person who's talking to me, none of the conversations I'm having with people start as sales conversations. I'm not selling anything to anybody until that person's expressed to me on purpose or by accident that I should. And so that whole first part of the conversation is identifying whether they're a fit or not. I'm just looking to see, let me go back a little bit. When I used to help people in my email and in my DM and on my Facebook Messenger and on my Facebook page, I would give them the quick tip or trick or whatever it was that they thought they needed to give them the results and the outcome that they wanted. And when I would go back and send those people messages and ask them how it worked, either they didn't respond or they responded that it didn't work well, or that they haven't tried it yet. And that led me to feeling like I was actually doing people a disservice by providing them part of the solution and allowing them to think that I gave them the whole thing and be frustrated by the lack of results from the whole thing. So I stopped doing that. And now what it is that whole first half of the conversation with somebody, I'm just looking to see, is this somebody who actually wants legitimate, meaningful, consistent help from me, from us as a company? Or is this somebody who just has a one-time problem that they're looking for a solution to? because many one-time problems are actually not one-time problems. And that's what I need to be deciphering in that moment. Do I help this person by solving this one-time problem, or am I just giving that person a fish and leaving them hungry next week? So once we're through the first part of the conversation where I identify, okay, this person does need what we do, I don't consider the cost of action anymore. It never even crosses my mind. It never crosses my mind how much this person's going to need to spend. It doesn't cross my mind whether this person's going to have to go into debt. It doesn't cross my mind whether or not this person is going to need to, hang their hopes on it, even though the last mentor they worked with led them to a plateau. And that doesn't cross my mind at all. Once I have certainty that we can help somebody, I am like a dog on a bone to make sure that they get the help that they need.
So you're paying more attention to what the better reality is going to be for them on the other side.
Yeah, I just had somebody recently who reached out who said to me, Dr. Sean, the reason I haven't worked with you yet is because I have some imposter syndrome. I said, what do you mean? Why is that a reason not to work with us yet? And he said, because the imposter syndrome that I have leads me to believing that I actually shouldn't be selling people into these things. And I know you're going to teach me how to sell people into these things. My response to that was, we don't teach you how to sell people into things that you do not believe they should be sold into. We teach you how to create valuable things that you cannot imagine people not buying their way into.
What a difference.
It's a major difference. And so now, okay, everyone who walks through, you're evaluating, should this person walk further? And if the answer is yes, then there is no imposter syndrome around it. It's building confidence through success repeatedly, not in sales tactics and conversations, by having a good enough product that people get a great result from it, and by being inspired by that result to get more people in it to make the product even better. I had a good friend yesterday reach out and say their company, they're a nutrition fitness company, and they want to learn sales. They don't have sales. And they said, you guys sell really well. Are there any courses you can recommend? They said, frankly, we haven't found any really good courses that are relevant to the fitness space. So we created our own, the ethical sales course. I'm like, oh, cool. I'll just buy it for them. Where can I find it? So, well, we don't sell it. It's offered within the Pro Path, and we start to teach it in the immersion and in foundations. And he said, well, why don't you guys sell it? And I said, because I don't want to teach people who don't believe in their product how to sell it. I don't want to teach people with poor services to learn how to get people into their poor services. The reason we call it the ethical sales course is because it needs to start with having a valuable product that you can't imagine people living without. And then selling it's easy.
Yeah. There's a huge difference between how do I sell this person and should I sell this person?
Yeah. And I can't let this person not buy. Instead, like when I used to sell, even when I was good at it, in air quotes, I was good at it because I was willing to hear no over and over and over again and keep on trying to find a way to get somebody in. And people would often buy just because they were like, I can't think of another reason to tell you no. And they would, and fine. Now, what's different about that is I'm really discerning about who I will sell to. So if you're talking to me on the other side of a sales conversation and we're still talking, the reason that we're still talking is because I believe with every fiber of my being that your life and your career would be better if you spent the money that you are afraid to spend to work with us so that we can return more money, more fulfillment, more value to your life than you paid us. And I'll be here. There are people in my DM right now who would attest to this. We've been talking for 2 years. And I will continue to be there as long as they need me to be there until they're ready to buy and do the real thing.
Yeah, I hear that. My longest is is 8 months, and I'm looking forward to those.
Speed it up. I'm just kidding.
So I think what's valuable for you guys to take away here is what you pay attention to will become energized, and what becomes energized will live. So you have to decide which reality you want to energize and breathe life into with your attention. If you are paying attention to the current reality that these people have been tolerating for themselves, then they are going to stay as they always have been, and they're going to suffer what they always have. If you decide to pay attention to the new reality that they can move into and fill that with all of your attention and your energy, their energy and attention will follow yours, and that life will become possible for them.
Yeah. And I will say this, it's you need to believe in your product, not only generally, but specifically. And your product, by the way, is your coaching. If you're a coach listening, your product is your gym. It's not necessarily a protein powder. It doesn't have to be a physical, tangible product. So you don't need to believe that fitness would be great for this person. You need to believe that the only fitness that's going to solve this person's problem completely is your brand of fitness. Because otherwise what happens is when somebody walks into your door and they're 50, 100 pounds overweight, or they have knee pain or back pain, and you know that you could help them. When they say to you, you're more expensive than the gym down the block, if your only solution to them is, yeah, but fitness is going to be valuable for you. Well, they don't understand what's different about fitness down the block and fitness here. You need to be so confident in your own brand of your own fitness that you know what the flaws are elsewhere. And when they go there, you know what their breakdowns are going to be. And you need to be in the mind that I can't imagine you going there and not getting the results. And you need to be able to express that to them in a way that doesn't disparage the other person. You won't hear me talk bad about other mentor companies, about other coaches, despite the fact that I strongly believe that our coaching for the client who should work with us is stratospherically different than theirs and better.
I mean, the conversation becomes, that's going to be a great place if you're interested in fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And then if you're interested in this, and that is where you declare exactly who you are and what you do. And if that lights that person up, it's your job to now sell them in that.
Exactly. And we can talk about that in our next podcast episode, is effectively like how to choose a mentor, what the mentor should be for you, and the difference between someone who tells you what to do and someone who guides you on your path. We can talk about that on the next show.
I'm going to leave you guys with what I said before. What you pay attention to will become energized and enlivened. So when you have someone standing in front of you that you firmly believe should be enrolled in your education, the onus is on you to bring your attention and their attention to what the other side of working with you looks like, such that they can't imagine not having that after you've painted the picture for them. Mm-hmm. Anything else you want to add to that?
There's an account that I've been trying to bring to Active Life since 2011, before we were in Active Life, when it was just me. And we haven't landed this account yet, but I promise you it is worth landing, and it is worth being patient for, and it's worth putting the work in for. And I haven't for one day, for one moment in the last 9 years, wavered at all on the importance of us closing this account. And if you believe in your product and your service that strongly and that specifically, you will never lose the energy to promote it.
Turn pro.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Active Life podcast. If you did, please be sure to head to wherever you listened to it and give us a quality review, as well as 5 stars if you can spare them. If you want more from us, feel free to follow all of our social media accounts at Active Life Professional, Active Life RX, and Dr. Sean Pastuch on Instagram. Remember, at Active Life, we believe that the healthcare clinic of the future is the gym, and the healthcare provider of the future is the coach. We also believe that that future is now.